Good morning, everyone. It's Nancy Nardin of Smart Selling Tools, and it's a pleasure to have you join us today. It's also a pleasure to have my guests with us, Dan Barris and Lisa Bradley. Let's just find out a little bit about yourself and your role and the kinds of things that you do for Recall Masters.
Sure. So as mentioned, I'm our Chief Operating Officer. Recall Masters is a data technology company centered around automotive safety recalls in the automotive industry. So there's actually 63 million vehicles on the road that have unrepaired safety recalls. So seat belts, airbags, door latches, all those kinds of things.
So you're actually selling to the manufacturers, the dealers?
Yep, we sell to the manufacturers, the dealerships, and pretty much all of the vendors in the industry. Anywhere you could see a VIN number populate in, whether it be an insurance application on on a phone or a website, a consumer-facing website where you see a VIN number. We're providing the open recall data so that consumers can see, is their car safe? Do they have anything wrong with it? And how they bring the car in to get it repaired. So we have an inside sales staff. So there's 3 on the inside sales staff, and then we have 5 out in the field, and they're kind of scattered around the country. So it's it's critical that we have these kinds of tools in place to be able to have reporting, all sorts of things. So I'm just going to say that I think the number one I guess attribute that Pipeline offers is the ease of use. I've been in part of many sales organizations, and it's always the same thing. There's so many salespeople that don't want to use the tool because they're either A, intimidated, B, they just maybe they're not a technology person, so they kind of fumble around with it and don't really know how to use it correctly. And several companies, we just had a hard time with user adoption. And with Pipeline, we've when I first saw the ability to bring in all of your different data points on one screen, this is super easy. And
let's move on and talk about your project. Okay, so you've had the company for a couple of years. You're building it up. You've got enough salespeople that now you realize you've got to offer them something. I'm putting words in your mouth, but tell me a little bit about your why and when you decided that you needed a CRM solution, and then we'll talk about how also you looked into and evaluated them.
At Recall Masters, when we started, we actually had a different CRM. Having 2 other companies prior to Recall Masters, we had already implemented Pipeline at those 2 companies, so it was a real easy phone call. I worked with the same salesperson at Pipeline for I think over 7 years now, and so getting Pipeline implemented and migrating our data, it was a very easy maneuver, and within a couple days we were up and running and using the solution.
Were you tempted to look at other technologies to say, gee, a lot of people are talking about Salesforce, or maybe we should look into that also?
Yeah, I guess I may call myself a victim, and I've been involved with 2 Salesforce implementations. Now it's they've created their own ecosystem of everything, and to the point where it got very confusing for, at least for our company, and some of the users that were complaining about certain things. So yeah, I mean, having had experience using other CRMs, I already knew that Pipeline was the answer for us, and I knew that it would be kind of warmly accepted right away, especially having used it at my last company and having some of the same employees here too. So it was an easy plug-in.
All right, well, let's talk about the adoption and training and implementation, because like you mentioned, you spent a lot at the prior company, trying to implement Microsoft. Did you find that, what's involved in trying to get it going and getting your sales reps to say, hey, this is good, and training them and all of that?
Sure. I think the first thing is to get a general understanding of, what is a lead, what's a a company or a client and getting the definitions going, because I think most salespeople have used another CRM, and that's always a confusing thing. Is okay, are we going to convert leads to a client now, or is everyone going to be a lead? And so there's always this confusion around them. But again, simplistic, being able to see in pipeline, company, people, and deals. I mean, that's really where we spend, as a salesperson, where you spend most of your time. And then establishing, what the what's required from the salesperson. What's the information that we're going to require them to enter in? What are the business rules around creating an opportunity so that it can show up in the salesperson's pipeline? And then, as a manager, being able to pull a report at any time and be able to see information right there, and you can customize a report within minutes. So
we hear a lot about a Salesforce admin, right? There's a lot of certification and courses, and there's a big, huge career path for these Salesforce admins. Do you have to have a PipelineDeals admin?
I'm that person. It's always wise to have someone that oversees everything. That especially when it gets into the customization, setting up automations, providing your own reporting and your own views. So that's me.
But what I hear you saying though is, if you hired someone, it would be because you have other things to do, not because, we've got to have someone that can become an expert because it's so difficult to manage and it takes all this time, which I think is the case with a lot of CRM solutions. You really have to have someone that has years of training in using the CRM.
Yep.
So if you are listening and you're looking for a CRM that has all of the important modern kinds of capabilities, but is designed to be easy to live with and easy to use and easy to make it work for you versus the opposite, then I think PipelineDeals is for sure a really good one to take a look at. All right, so let's talk about the outcome, because it is just a tool. It is just something that you put in place to help yourself as part of the management team, as well as your sales organization. How do you measure whether or not you pick the right one, whether or not, do you measure adoption? Do you talk to people about what they're getting? I mean, how do you measure success in a case of CRM?
I think, user adoption is key, and making sure, outside just of the sales force, being able to have a centralized location for all things related to either a prospect or a client is huge. Being able to, if I want to look up my client's contract, I just go simply to navigate to that client and go to the document storage and pull up the contract right there. But as far as the users go, even if someone's part of our client services team, or maybe they're our setup coordinator, they're all communicating inside there. So if I want to see, well, what's transpired over the last month with this customer, I can see all the activities. I can see who's talked to who and who's reached out to who.
Okay, well, this has been interesting, and I know that everyone's probably going, well, what does it look like, and how do we use it? And so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and ask Lisa to share her screen with us.
So let's just dive right in. So we're on the Home tab here, and this is really designed to be mission control for your day. So we've designed it to give you the power to build relationships by letting you know what you've got scheduled and helping you to manage your sales pipeline. So you'll see your pipeline broken down here into your custom deal stages. So these are all the deal stages that go along with your sales process. You define them and can customize them in the platform, based on whatever your specific process is. So you'll see at a high level what you've got in your pipeline, along with deal amounts associated with each stage. And then you'll also see some cool stats like the win ratio, the average one deal size, and your sales cycle time. And if you're a manager, you can use this view to dive into specific team members just by filtering on the pipeline view here. So that's a great place to start off your one-on-one sales meetings with your reps. We've got,
and Lisa, that data is automatically updated. It's not someone is, you know, updating it on their own. This is just automatically in real time, kind of kept up to date, so you can see it at a glance.
Yep, absolutely. So this pulls from all of the data you're entering, and as you're moving sales through the process and changing deal amounts and things like that, it all just gets updated in real time right here.
That negotiation stage is my favorite button to hit, you know, when it's the end of the month. So what deals can you bring across the line? And just click that and you can see what they are and call the sales guy and see if you can close a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, if you're a manager, you probably aren't looking as much at the qualified as you are at the negotiation type stage.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and so, you know, other high level, you know, things that you can see here, you can access your agenda right from this page, so you can see who you need to be following up with today. I should also note we have an integration with Google Calendar and Outlook, so you can get these, you know, in both places. There's a bi-directional sync for them. And if I click on this little contact icon, that's going to pull up all of my contact information, so I can start making calls, you know, without jumping to any other pages. But if you do, you know, want to take a deeper dive into your data, you can do this via the list views. So if I jump into a list view here, and you'll notice, as Dan mentioned, these have a very familiar look to anyone who's worked in Excel or worked in spreadsheets, and this was intentional. And this is one of the reasons that PipelineDeals is so approachable to first-time CRM users, or even CRM users who have used a more complicated platform. They see this, they're like, okay, I understand, you know, what all this means. It's very familiar to me. But the cool thing about the lists is that they're not only super easy to use and recognizable, but they're powerful because they're very customizable. So you can drag and drop any of these fields around, and I know Dan mentioned that this is one of his favorite things to be able to do. You can add and remove columns, you can pull in different data points, you can filter on any of these, so you can really dig into your data, you know, however you want. Whatever questions you have, you can really find it all on the list view here. So if you wanted to do something like create a call down list, I just filtered on the source here being trade show. So if you entered a bunch of leads in from a trade show, you can pull them all up really quickly. You can, right from the list view, click on the contact icon here, find their phone number, call them, add an activity, and just keep moving down your list. You don't have to move off of this page. So it's really fast and easy to be able to, you know, get through your call down list.
And I'm going to stop you again, because this is really significant, and it's not something that people who are shopping for a CRM will necessarily know to look for. Mm-hmm. And that is that it's not typically easy to get a list view and then be able to work within the list view. Now you can maybe look at the list, but you can't, for instance, edit it. You can't necessarily filter for a different view. In fact, there's expensive add-ons for some of the well-known CRMs that allow you to do that. So you're paying on top of the CRM price just to be able to do that, which is sort of ridiculous. So here, I mean, that's something to look for, is to make sure that when you are looking at something, you don't have to do 6 other things in order to get a different view or to edit information.
Mm-hmm. Right, yep, huge time saver for sure. And I wanted to touch on here as well, Dan mentioned using the list views for your reporting. So if you wanted to create a report, you know, forecasting what are we expecting to bring in this month, you can just filter on the expected close date. You can filter for your time frame. We'll just pick this quarter. I've got my projections right here, so super easy. And then the other thing that kind of takes it the next step further is that you can save these lists for future use. So every time you have a question, you don't have to come in and look for it every single time. If you have, you know, chances are you're going to run these reports on a regular basis. So you can just save that and call it your Q1 forecast.
And anyone can do this, right? So as a sales rep, if I find that one, view of data is more helpful for me than some other, I just do what you did and save it for myself. And I can save it and make it available for others, or I just save it for myself, right? So everyone gets to work in a way that, is comfortable for them.
Yep, exactly. And you can share it with other people, as you mentioned. So, and this is something that I'm sure Dan has done. A lot of sales managers will do when they want their team to be focused on a specific, group of information. They'll create the list for them and share it and say, okay, here's what I want to work on our one-on-ones. This is what I'm going to be looking at. So very easy to get everyone on the same page. And then another thing to mention about our list views, something else you can do from here is you can actually send email campaigns directly from here. So if I wanted to email a specific group of contacts, I would just filter and sort for that group, and then I would select them all, and I can send out a campaign directly from here. And you can utilize email templates that you've set up in advance, drop them in. We've got custom merge tags, so it's going to personalize every message that goes out.
So this is exactly what we use for, say we just returned back from a trade show, and we have a list of leads that the lead retrieval system gave us, and we have a file. I just upload it in, tag the source as trade show, and then obviously we can do follow-up right away because we just upload it into the tool and everybody can see who their leads are, and off and away we go.
Nice.
Yeah, and then another cool thing about that is you can not only send the messages, but you can also get insights into who's opening your emails and which templates and subject lines are performing best, things like that. And there's a couple of different places that you can see that information on the Home tab. Just a quick glance, you can see your latest email interactions. So if an email was open, it'll give you exactly the time and date that it was open. There's also the Sent Mail tab if you want to dive in a little bit deeper. So this is just like other list views within PipelineDeals. You can add and remove columns, filter based on campaigns, opens, really anything that you're interested in. And then another perk of this, so you're sending them emails, you're getting insights into if they're being opened, but having that historical record of what emails you've sent and everything is really handy to have on a specific profile. So if I jump into a profile here, I'll see that I've got all of these interactions logged as activities. So I've got that full history of my initial message going out, when it was opened, the reply from the customer. So this is super important. As Dan mentioned, if you're a good salesperson, you're talking to many people during the day, you're sending out tons of offers. If you're going to be able to build that trusting relationship with your clients and prospects, you need to be able to remember what you had talked about before. So if you don't have that information easily accessible where you can quickly review it, you're going to have a hard time building that next level relationship and being able to find that information quickly. So on that note, we've got this full conversation here, which is fantastic. So it includes emails and my notes and everything. But these aren't just for my personal reference. This can be important for anyone who might be covering my accounts if I'm on vacation or sick, or if my manager just wants to pop in and see what's going on with the customer. And this kind of leads to another great feature, which is the ability to collaborate with team members when you're writing activities. So I can, write the outcome of a phone call or a meeting in here for my reference, but also, and I can tag it with the appropriate activity category, but I can also let my manager know just by clicking their name here, the contents of that note. So they'll get alerted immediately. If I just type in a quick message here, they'll also be able to come in and respond. So you can have a full, back and forth conversation right on the profile. Great for any historical, records of what's been talked about, as well as instantly notifying team members if, they don't sit right next to you. As Dan mentioned, he's got, folks kind of all over the world. So it's great to be able to have a place to collaborate and keep track of everything.
And normally that would be done through email. And then what happens is all that insight and information is hiding in different people's inbox. So you don't necessarily see that it's connected to an account, and your email box gets clogged up in an unorganized way. Here, you only see it when you're looking at that particular person.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Death to email.
What's that?
I said death to email.
Death to email. Yes, I'm all for that. And
so
I see agenda. I'm sorry, Lisa, because I might be pointing you to something that you weren't about to show, but I see the agenda there, and I know I've used this before and think it's great. And it's not a feature that you find in all or even many CRMs. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So your agenda, it's going to follow you everywhere. So as long as you're using it, you should always know what you have to do. So, you've got this agenda item is specifically related to this profile of this person. So I can set reminders for myself. I could add tasks and assign them to someone else on the team if, my boss owes a follow-up to this person, things like that. You can also set up templates. So if you have a series of follow-ups that you go after prospects, day 1, day 3, send them an email, things like that. You can set up a custom email template, task templates that will automatically apply to that record. So you don't have to remember to go back and remind yourself if that's your protocol for following up with your leads. You can just add that template and all of the necessary follow-up items will be applied there. And I mentioned this kind of follows you around. So you've got on the specific profiles, it'll be isolated to just the agenda items that have to do with that record. On the home tab, you'll see everything that you have. You can look at your past due items for the full week. And then we also have an agenda tab. So if you want to see, even bigger picture, all of your to-do items, that will show up on the agenda tab. And you can create, lists based on the type. So if you just wanted to see the calls that you have this week versus emails or on-site visits, you can filter just like you can anywhere else within the app.
Okay, now that is great, because that's typically, Dan, do you find this too, that what salespeople do is they're in the mode for call. I'm going to do calls for the next hour, or now it's quiet time, it's lunch, maybe I'm going to do some emails while I eat my sandwich. But if all of your tasks are based on just when you need to do them and not the type of task, it makes it hard to do that.
Yep, no doubt. I just asked my sales team. We have our team in for this week for training, and I started out our CRM session that was 2 days ago. I just said, how do you guys start your day? How do you know who to call, what you're doing? How do you, and everybody, that is on the sales team, they're now starting to migrate towards having Pipeline tell them what their day is, because essentially if you're using it correctly, you come in and there's your agenda, you know what you're exactly supposed to do, and everything's listed right there. So it's a great tool to use.
Yeah, the other thing I remember about agenda is it's really can be used as a workflow template, so that it's not just you, right? So if I said I could have a template, and that when I close a deal, then the next step in that agenda, if you will, is that someone needs to send an invoice, or it needs to alert someone, or all these things now have to happen in order. So it helps to organize an organization-wide workflow as well as just a personalized workflow.
We just eliminated the need to like our production team and our data team. So once a deal's closed, they were required to obviously get to work on that account and do all these different tasks. And you know, a lot of times the salesperson would say, hey, where are we in the process with this account? Where are we at with the onboarding? And there was no uniform place for them to go. They have to pick up the phone and call somebody or Slack somebody. So we just moved that entire process onto Pipeline. So once a deal's closed, everyone's required to, to start doing their tasks, and we've created, list views and different things where you can kind of see the progression of an onboarding account. So as a salesperson, if I want to know where are we at with this person, you can see what, what's missing, what we haven't done yet, all right there.
Love it. So important for customer experience. And we're talking about building relationships. What happens after the deal closes is just as important as what happens during, the negotiation and the whole sales cycle. So that really helps with that. It helps everybody stay on the same page.
Yeah, Nancy, I would say that is one of our strongest differentiators, is that you can actually manage your business's entire customer lifecycle in PipelineDeals. So from lead to close to that ongoing customer relationship. And that, is really a core need in CRM, and you don't find this type of functionality in a lot of CRMs in the marketplace. And I'm just showing you an example of a customer page here. So you can do things like indicate your key contacts. So really important, if you've got 50 contacts at an account, you need to quickly see who makes the decisions, who pays the bills, things like that. It's nice to have that, just a few clicks away. And then you can set up milestones for things like implementation and onboarding, renewals. So anyone who needs access to that can quickly see where things are at a glance. And you can also indicate customer health. So are they happy? How are things going? So all of that really helps to support that long-term relationship and ensure that you're on top of your clients' needs and keeping them happy, after the ink is dry on the contract, so that relationship continues going strong after the sale.
For sure. And we're up against the clock here, so I'm going to wrap up by just saying a few things. And one is that I started earlier saying that not everyone needs a Porsche. Well, here's the thing. I probably stand corrected, because you can almost get a Porsche, but you don't, you don't have all of the idiosyncrasies of a Porsche and the finesse, all the things that you have to take care of, and the expensive engine and all of that stuff. But you certainly have the same capabilities. And in fact, I would say that, I've watched PipelineDeals for, gosh, 7, 8, 9 years now, maybe. And I've seen you come out with innovative things like, hey, let's just make sure that we can quickly find the key people. It seems simple, but that's a really important function to have. And other things like the agenda and these milestones, these are things you won't find in an expensive CRM without having to at least double the cost of your CRM license by adding add-on plugins. So I think what you've done a great job of, and why Dan's been a repeat customer, is you find the things that are really important and really helpful, and then you offer them up in a way that's easy to get to and use and benefit from. So with that, I'm going to say thank you both very much for participating. Dan, it was great to hear your story. And Lisa, thanks for the demo. And for all of those on the call, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you can join us on our next webinar. We do these about almost once every week. And so we hope to see you next time.